Every time you stretch at your desk, your spine makes a sad little cracking sound and begs for mercy. Meet our hero. He is sitting in a stuffy office, chugging coffee after coffee just to survive the day. Our hero honestly believes his life is the pinnacle of human evolution. But if his wild ancestor from 300,000 years ago took one look at his 9-to-6 work schedule, he would laugh hysterically and then cry out of pure pity. How on earth did we trade absolute freedom for endless Zoom calls and mortgages? In 1963, Canadian anthropologist Richard Lee went to the Kalahari Desert to study the wild Jihawansi tribe. He expected to find a brutal, exhausting struggle for survival. Instead, he found a wellness retreat. It turned out an average adult tribal member spent only about 17 hours a week gathering food. That is less than 2.5 hours a day. Our hero spends more time just commuting to work and back. When Richard Lee asked one of the tribesmen why they didn't take up farming, the man looked genuinely puzzled and said, "Why should we plant when there are so many wild mungongo nuts in the world?" Indeed, why? They had no performance reviews, no deadlines, and no tax returns. Our bodies haven't changed for thousands of years. We are perfectly adapted for the wilderness, where our ancestors' stress lasted for exactly 5 minutes. Imagine a saber-toothed tiger jumping out of the bushes. Your brain instantly floods your body with cortisol and adrenaline. You either run like an Olympian or you get eaten. Either way, 5 minutes later, the stress is over and you are back to chilling by the fire. But what happens to our hero? He gets a message from his boss, "Please step into my office." His body gets the exact same toxic hormone cocktail. His brain screams, "Run or fight!" But our hero can't sprint out of the office or bite his boss. He is forced to sit completely still and smile politely. The stress hormones have nowhere to go, slowly destroying his body from the inside, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There is a popular myth that ancient humans were constantly starving and died in their 20s. But archaeologists have bad news for your HR department. The skeletons of hunter-gatherers show they were tall, muscular gigachads with perfect teeth and 0 cavities. They ate hundreds of different wild plants, berries, fresh meat, and fish. Now, look at Hans. Hans is a medieval peasant. He is 30 years old, has about 3 teeth left, and his spine is permanently bent like a letter C from working the fields. Hans's entire diet is bland porridge and cheap bread. If there was a drought, Hans and his entire village simply starved to death because they depended on a single crop. The wild ancestor always had dozens of backup options. Hans had none. And here is another uncomfortable fact. Agriculture actually made us dumber. Many anthropologists are convinced that over the last 20,000 years, the human brain has shrunk by about 10%. That's about the size of a tennis ball. Scientists debate the reasons. Maybe we just offloaded our brains to smartphones and forgot to back them up. Our wild ancestor had to be a walking encyclopedia, memorizing thousands of plants, animal tracks, and survival skills. Every single hunter-gatherer was an expert in botany, geography, and meteorology. But Hans only needed to know how to sow seeds and repeat the same boring chore every single day. We traded personal resourcefulness for convenient gadgets. If our hero's Wi-Fi goes down for 10 minutes, he doesn't even know how to navigate to the nearest grocery store without GPS, leaving us with a giant collective encyclopedia, but an individual brain that is literally smaller than his ancestors. Do you think that before modern medicine, any injury was an automatic death sentence? Wrong again! Archaeologists regularly find ancient skeletons with signs of complex amputations and healed fractures that mended years before the person died. A predator with a broken leg is dead, but our ancestors' broken bones prove one thing. When a hunter broke his leg, his tribe didn't leave him behind. They carried him, fed him, and cared for him for months until he recovered. For free. Try breaking a leg today, losing your job, and running out of money. Quickly realize whose society was actually more civilized. When our hero has a free evening, he just mindlessly scrolls through his phone to forget his terrible day. Ancient humans didn't have that problem. They spent their abundance of free time on pure creativity. In 1994, explorers in France found Chauvet Cave, filled with animal paintings from 30,000 years ago. These are professional masterpieces with depth, shading, and perspective. Creating them took weeks of hard work by torchlight. In South Africa, archaeologists found shell beads from 100,000 years ago. An ancient trendsetter walked 40 kilometers to the coast just to get pretty shells, then spent hours drilling tiny holes with a flint tool. In Germany, they dug up a flute made from a vulture bone from 40,000 years ago. 5 finger holes, perfect musical pitch. They sat around the campfire having jam sessions while our hero is updating Excel sheets. But the real nightmare started when humans decided to domesticate animals. Hunters never lived in dirt next to beasts, but the first farmers started sleeping in close quarters with their cows, pigs, and birds. The animals generously shared their deadly viruses. Smallpox came from camels, flu from ducks, tuberculosis from cows, and whooping cough from pigs. This triggered the era of brutal pandemics that wiped out entire cities. Every time our hero takes a sick day with the flu, he should thank his distant ancestor who decided that keeping a pig inside his house 10,000 years ago was a brilliant idea. It all started 10,000 years ago in the Fertile Crescent. Wheat promised humans stability, but as food production increased, the population exploded. Women started having more babies. But more people required more fields, and more fields required working from dawn till dusk. There was no going back. If the tribe decided to abandon their crops and return to hunting, half of them would starve because the wild could no longer support that many people. Humans became slaves to the grass they planted. As soon as grain appeared that could be stored for years, people who didn't want to work appeared too, eager to control it. That is how the state was born. The first clay tablets in ancient Sumer were not created for beautiful poetry or philosophy. They were boring tax receipts recording how much grain and beer the peasants owed to the temple warehouses. Our friend Hans was quickly taught the new reality. If Hans didn't want to hand over his hard work for free, men with bronze axes would show up and politely explain the rules of the new economy. Our hero pays income tax today simply because 10,000 years ago, someone invented a barley barn. Even the way we sleep is an artificial rule invented by factory owners during the Industrial Revolution. Before light bulbs, humans slept in two phases. They fell asleep after sunset, slept for about 4 hours, and woke up around midnight for 2 hours. They used this midnight gap for quiet chats by the fire, continuing the family line, or just reflecting in peaceful darkness. Then came the second phase of sleep for another 4 hours. Today, if our hero wakes up in the middle of the night, he panics, pops sleeping pills, and diagnoses himself with insomnia. In reality, his body is just trying to sleep the way nature intended for millions of years. In the end, we get an absolute comedy of the absurd. Our hero works 40 hours a week for 40 years of his life to save up for retirement, to the countryside, fish, look at the stars, and take afternoon naps. In other words, our hero is willing to give away his best years just to buy back a cheap demo version of the freedom his ancestors enjoyed for free every single day. We built a world of incredible comfort, but forgot how to be happy. Was this progress worth it? Ask your psychologist during your next $100 an hour session. If you want to help us survive in this modern wilderness, please hit that subscribe button. Your support keeps our fire burning. Thank you, friends, and see you next time.